it's Nancy Guberti, functional medicine specialist, nutritionist, and the founder of Total Wellness Empowerment, and it is another fact-filled Friday. So today I want to talk about the statistics for anxiety, obesity, migraines, and then go into about 5 or 6 different research that came across my desk talking about toxicity. First, let's start with anxiety. Do you know that it is the most common mental illness in the United States among adults? And it affects 40 million adults. That's 18% of the population. That's a big issue. It's saying that lifestyle is so important. And this is why I actually wrote my book, Healthy Living Every Day, because I realized that to really reach optimal wellness, and this is from my clinical research of 18 years, one has to embody the wellness of mind as well as the health and wellness of the body. And mental illness is very common these days. So let's run through some top 9 tips to deal with anxiety. Staying hydrated, eating balanced, healthy meals, as well as getting quality sleep, exercise, dealing with stress in natural ways. You must have some stress reduction strategies to deal with that feeling of anxiousness and anxiety. Meditation, deep breathing, being mindful of the moment that you're in and why are you feeling this way, and is there a solution that you can work on? Because if you feel hopeless, the anxiety continues. So these are natural ways, and then there are natural supplements that could help, like L-theanine, possibly GABA. I'm drinking chamomile tea, staying away from alcohol, staying away from caffeinated drinks as well as sugar. I would always recommend running a functional medicine lab test, which is non-invasive, first morning urine, and it's called the organic acid test because it will check your neurotransmitters and show how your adrenal system is functioning, and if there's any nutritional deficiencies that could be making the condition worse. So if you do suffer from anxiety, I would highly recommend that you look into natural remedies, and then if that helps but you plateau, I would definitely recommend you running an organic acid test. Get a copy of my book, join the Total Wellness Empowerment private Facebook group, and let's get you with like-minded individuals. So that's the first fact. The second is about obesity, and I've read the statistic that I want to read to you. By 2030, and you know what year we're in now, nearly 1 in 2 adults will be obese, and nearly 1 in 4 will be severely obese. So that's a big problem. And obesity can be multiple factors leading into this. It could be that you're definitely eating the wrong foods, but usually there's an emotional component. And we really, again, have to go back to mindfulness and dealing with, everybody has baggage, right? So dealing with that is going to help. So you want to reach total wellness of mind and body, and getting to a healthy weight will be the way to do that. Now we talk about migraines and sinuses, because this is the season where lots of people are getting sinus infections. So the classic picture for a patient who claims to experience sinus headaches 2 or 3 times a year, the typical story is you get congested, you take antibiotics, and 2 days later you're feeling better because those antibiotics are getting rid of that infection, or so you think. Well, what we see is there's repeat occasions for this. And it's really not sinus infections, but they're experiencing some type of migraine. So if this is your medical history where you are experiencing what you think are sinus infections and you get antibiotics and you feel better, but then they keep recurring, it may very well be that you are experiencing migraines. I would recommend a natural product, and it's an enzyme. It's actually an enzyme. It's called Mucostop. You would take this on an empty stomach with a large glass of water. So you could do it first thing in the morning. It has to be away from food. So if you do it first thing in the morning, you haven't eaten, you would take this enzyme with your glass of water and then wait an hour before having your first meal. This can help with keeping your mucous membranes healthy, and you can, definitely stop sinus infections, but many people have been able to nip migraines from starting because of this, because the two are interrelated. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the research that came across my desk this week, and most of it is about toxins. So let's go over to the first research. There are key characteristics of 86 agents known to cause cancer in humans, and I have included that research on my Facebook business page so you can look at those agents. So there's a lot of carcinogenic toxins out there on different levels, and this research is very fascinating. It's very technical as well, but it goes into that information. What I found really alarming with some research that came across the desk this week was it said class of 2016. So when you think of that, you think of young people, and I want to hear that, if I hear class of 2016, it's going to be that they're starting amazing careers, they're doing something wonderful in the world. And unfortunately, this article was that there is a pattern to a middle school that is very local here on the East Coast, and it's in Northport Middle School in Long Island, so in New York, where there have been at least 6 cases of cancer from that graduating class. And some have passed away, unfortunately. But why did that middle school close? Well, they closed because there were toxins found in the soil samples at that school. There's no coincidence then that there are a growing number of students from that class that have the same cancer. We're seeing a lot of this. I mentioned a few weeks ago about a school being developed on a toxic land. I don't understand, again, how that got approved. Let's go to Monsanto. Monsanto is the maker of glyphosate. Glyphosate causes cancer, and Bayer bought Monsanto. The lawyers representing Monsanto are freaking out, and they are trying to shift the attention away from the cancer-causing herbicide and saying it's a fungus in the crops that's causing the cancer. That's one thing. The second thing is, in the EU, which is the European Union, it was brought to them to look at glyphosate, and 21 different research papers that would say that glyphosate is actually not a carcinogenic. What just happened was employees from this company called LPT Hamburg that submitted 21 research studies to say Monsanto was not a carcinogenic. Employees there are whistleblowers. They are saying that all of the research was fraudulent, it was all docked up, and none of it is real. So this is what Monsanto will do, right? We know that. They have a lot of money and they make a lot of money So they could possibly, in this case, persuade a lab to write up fraudulent research. Thank God the employees didn't feel good about it, and they brought this to light. And the next bit of information is when you are looking to move to a city, a state, a country, wherever, do your research to find out if it's toxic. So there were 10 United States refineries that admitted excessive cancer-causing benzene in 2019. Well, that's really good to know. Are you exposed? Imagine buying a home where one of these U.S. refineries are and having a family there, only to find out later that you are exposing yourself to excessive cancer-causing toxins. And Philadelphia, Texas, Mississippi, and Louisiana were just some of the states that are exposed to this. So whenever you go house or home hunting, most people want to look at the kitchen and the bathrooms and the yard. Well, I would say you also want to look at, is it toxic? Is the environment toxic? Are there environmental toxins that no upgrade to a bathroom or a kitchen or picket fence could help you? What's more important? Next two articles is about our military and how they unfortunately have been exposed and getting cancer. This reminds me of 9/11, where the first responders were exposed to asbestos and other toxins from the World Trade Center, as well as from the airplanes that went into the buildings, that they ended up getting terrible cancers, and many of them died from it. And they're suffering with long-term health issues, the ones who did survive. So now we look at PFAS that is in the water from the firefighting foam used at the Cannon Air Force Base. So toxic chemicals were at this Cannon Air Force Base. Think about the men and women and their families exposed to this. Now, those contaminants are linked to cancer, immunological issues. There's a study that is coming out now. So if you know anyone that was at the Cannon Air Force Base, please have them do a toxicity test. I would do a GPL toxic profile from their urine, and they could also run other tests to see inflammation in them, as well as can their body detoxify? Do they have enough glutathione and vitamin C, and how is their liver functioning? Because they're really going to need to be on top of their health. There's actually now a Facebook group for any veterans that did serve at K2. And the reason why is they want to screen them for cancer. Unfortunately, they have been exposed to toxic levels of uranium, and it looked like a black goo. And many of the veterans have the same haunting stories. I served at K2, I have cancer. So they need also to be tested and get treated. There's natural remedies, or at least complementary treatment where you could add natural to the cancer treatments depending on what they have. So there's a lot of toxins around us we may have been exposed to. At the time of exposure, you may not realize it, that your health and your future is going to be negatively impacted. Again, this is where you have to be mindful, and you have to live the healthiest life you can to really combat those toxins that were in your life. running an organic acid test would be my recommendation to everyone across the board, so you get a baseline of how your body is functioning, your GI health, your adrenal health, how you break down foods, how you break down toxins, what nutritional markers you may be deficient in, so you could aid the body in removing toxins. Because we see from the research that comes across the desk every week, toxicity is not going away. And we have to be very diligent in keeping our environment and our food intake and even our own mindset toxic free. So that wraps up our Fact-Filled Friday. And I just always want you to remember that your health is worth it because you are worth it and you deserve to live a healthy, happy life. Bye now.